What we noticed in our research, to finish that other thought, is that there comes a moment when you're in that coherent level of alpha that all of a sudden you slip into theta. And all of a sudden when theta turns on, all of a sudden you start seeing this amazing change take place. And the body becomes so relaxed, and the energy centers, the sympathetic nervous system, switches on. But instead of switching on like you're being chased by a tiger, or switching on like having an orgasm, or ejaculating, or switching on for whatever reason, it's switching on in balance with the parasympathetic nervous system.
Yes.
So the parasympathetic nervous system settles the body down, but now the sympathetic nervous system turns on, and here comes that energy, and whoosh, it travels right up the central nervous system, and it hits the brainstem, switches on what's called the thalamic gate, the reticular activating system. All that energy now hits the train station, the docking station where all the neurons go, and boom, it hits the neocortex, and now you're producing gamma brainwave patterns, and gamma brainwaves are super conscious brainwave patterns. In other words, the inner world is the real world. The experience is so profound energetically that you never forget the moment. That's when you rewrite the program. That lady we showed having ecstasy and in a state of ecstasy in their meditation, she was in high gamma. We were watching her, I was watching her go. We were going alpha, alpha, theta, theta, theta. We looked at each other and we were like, oh no, Jeffrey and I, and all of a sudden, boom, here it comes, gamma. Off the page. So then the moment that happens, then that's energy. And the sympathetic nervous system now is in complete balance with the parasympathetic nervous system. The thalamic gate is open. The subconscious is out of the way. It's released. And the energy is now traveling to the thinking brain, and the person's becoming super aware. You just took the dimmer switch and went from 20 watts to 50 watts, which is normal, to 100 watts. And we saw that in all the redness in the brain. Her brain was full of energy, and she was in a state of catharsis. She could control that, but why would she want to? Now she's having an orgasm in her head. Her brain is having the orgasm, and it's not chemical. It's electromagnetic. It's electromagnetic. Now, here's what happens. The moment that happens, melatonin has to change. Now it starts turning into all of these amazing neurotransmitters. Melatonin is transmuted in the alchemical factory of the pineal gland, and it makes a chemical that is one of the strongest antioxidants known to man. In other words, just a little tweak on the melatonin molecule, and now you have an anti-aging, anti-cancer, anti-heart disease, antimicrobial, anti-neurodegenerative disease chemical that's floating through your bloodstream. That's the first thing.
HGH or something? What is it?
It's an antioxidant. It's all those things.
Oh, wow.
You just take a methyl group and twist it and turn it. Then if you take melatonin and you change it again, it creates a phospholuminescent chemical, the same chemical found in the electric eel. Now, what is that? The neurons are just filled with energy, and there's a glow. And the neurons now are heightened, and they're storing energy. And that's what gives those colors and patterns during the experience. And if you switch that molecule again, it turns into the chemical that you find in mammals that are hibernating. In other words, no sex drive, no appetite, the body's in stasis. You're no longer having any drives. And what a time to dream. What a time to create a future, when the body is no longer the mind. Take that chemical and tweak it again, and it's the most powerful hallucinogenic known to man. And now you're talking about the God molecule. You're talking about the inner world as the real world, and now you are walking into a dimension. And this is where you go from space-time into time-space. And that's the vision quest, or the lucid experience, or whatever mystical moment that has been talked about for antiquity. And it takes a little bit to get people to this point, but when the neurotransmitters change, the chemicals are a downward causation of a shift in consciousness. And when that happens, holy hell, because the person will never be the same. I've had experiences, I understand them, and you can't go back to business as usual after a few of those. I think, my interest is to demystify this. Right?
So let's demystify it.
I mean, information, you teach people information, you teach them how to do it, and then it creates transformation. If we
Right.
can measure transformation, that's more information to teach transformation better, and we can close the gap. So, in one of our advanced workshops, we actually did extensive meditation. One of the things I've realized in my own personal experience is that you have to go past the point where you want to lay down in your meditation. There comes a point when you want to lay down or you want to give up or
Right.
stop. If you go a little bit past that point and you sit up a little bit longer, and then you lay down, and you can do it early in the morning, because the neurotransmitters are just right. They're not
Right.
quite melatonin, they're not quite serotonin, they're in between. And if you can get up and do your meditation early enough and sit up for an extended period of time and then lay down, the light show is going to begin.
Yes.
And so I started having these mystical experiences a couple years ago, and I would literally, they were so unusual that I had to go back to my quantum physics books and begin to look at what exactly was going on. But I wasn't taking any drugs. My brain was the pharmacy, in a sense. And I was having these Kundalini experiences, and it was like I was getting plugged into a light socket, like someone plugged me into the electricity socket, and I could feel every single cell of my body
Yes.
turning on all at once, and it was like somebody took that dial and turned it up, and it was amazing. So there was a signature energetically of love that came with that.
Yes.
It was the thing that I became the most interested in, because when I started having these experiences, Regina, the first thing I realized is I got this all wrong. I really had it all wrong, because this intelligence is so incredibly loving. And it's who we are. We're just separate from it. We're particle instead of wave. And when your nervous system tunes into that and the electromagnetism comes with it, the only way you can describe it is that you are so present, so conscious, and so in love with the idea of being alive that you don't want anything else. You can't want in that moment, because if you started to want, you would lose the feeling. So you can't want. All you can do is be, right, and love. So I started having these experiences, and then I started thinking, well, maybe we should be able to teach this. So I started doing the research on the neuroendocrinology and what it took and the brain chemistry at the time. And then I had to start explaining what the heck was happening to me. So that's how I got involved in it. But I can tell you, in observing people who have healed themselves of very serious health conditions, who've healed themselves of some pretty difficult scars from the past, who've overcome addictions, who've created new opportunities and new jobs and new relationships and a new life, had to cross that river. And that is when they're literally, from a biological standpoint, a new personality. And your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. And your personality is made of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So the present personality who's sitting here today has created the present personal reality called their life. Which means then, if you want to create a new personal reality, you got to change your personality. And that means you got to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and change it. Look at your unconscious habits and behaviors, what you say, what you do, and become conscious of it, and change them. And look at the emotions that have kept you anchored to the past, and decide if those emotions belong in your future. And I think the biggest problem is that most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality, and it doesn't work. So then as we begin to demystify this, and the person starts to say, oh my God, the disease that I have is because it's connected to this personality. Is it possible that if I change my personality, just like a person with a multiple personality disorder, who has an allergy to nylon stockings in one personality and type 1 diabetes in another, is it possible then, if I change my personality, that the disease exists in the old personality and I'm literally someone else? Is it possible then, from a biological standpoint, that they're healed and changed? So to answer the question, it's difficult because we're breaking out of a biological mold. It's difficult because most people don't know that they have within their reach all the tools to do it. because they have, number three, been conditioned on some level to believe that the new hairstyle or the new type of beer they're going to drink or the sports car or whatever it is going to change their state. And that's the hypnosis. And when I wrote The Placebo, You Are the Placebo, the biggest thing that I walked away with after writing that book was how hypnotized and programmed we really are. And that's bothered me ever since I wrote the book, because people watch things in their external environment and they accept, believe, and surrender to that information without any analysis, and they're programmed. And so when you and I start waking up and say no to those programs, and we start to think that we're maybe a little bit more unlimited than we're given credit for, and it's not driven for profits or self-interest, but when people start to wake up and say, hey, I healed myself of this condition, I healed myself of Parkinson's, I healed myself of lupus, I've healed myself of cancer, I've healed myself of rheumatoid arthritis, I've healed myself of chronic pain, I healed myself of food allergies. Hey, yeah, I was abused as a child, yeah, that's right, I was beat up by a violent father, and I lived in vulnerability and fear for the last 25 years, but that fear has signaled the wrong gene, and I developed this genetic condition that doctors said I had no way of healing. But when I overcame that fear and I broke out of it, I started to signal new genes in new ways, and that disease doesn't exist. Let me tell you, if you listen to that woman's story, and you listen to all the trials that she had gone through, and how she overcame herself, and she reached a place of such wholeness and self-satisfaction that she could care less if she had the disease, and that's the moment it went away, and you listen to that story, it's going to give you permission on some level that it's possible for you to do the same. You see someone dance the salsa well, you'll dance the salsa better. You see someone hit a golf ball like Rory, you'll hit a golf ball better. You see someone lead with love and compassion in their life, you will lead with love and compassion in your life. You see someone stand on a stage in front of 500 people and talk about how they overcame their cancer after their husband committed suicide, and the 3 years that it took her to do it, you will be inspired that it's possible for you. So then it has to start with a new consciousness, and that it's going to come from common people doing the uncommon, and that's where my passion is.
Bên kia lại khiến đôi mắt của em thêm sầu. Vì sao em đi cần để lại lý trí, chẳng để lại anh khi nước mắt còn rơi. Vì sao em đã vượt qua quên đi bao câu hứa mình còn cho nhau, quên đi bao nỗi đau mình dành. Ngày xưa em đã vội quên đi những lời hứa ngày nào, vì dòng nước mắt em đã vội rơi không thể mãi. Anh ngư đến vào điên rồi, anh như say đôi mắt môi, anh như chỉ còn muốn em bên cạnh như em phố xa rồi. Anh chỉ muốn em cạnh đấy thôi, không muốn em ở bên đời, chỉ muốn em anh bên người. Người đã gỡ bước đi xa trong cơn mưa chiều vội vã, người đã bước quên anh khi cơn mưa qua gần vội vã. Em đã quên rồi mai sau đây mà về, chẳng còn lại gì nhưng em mang nước mắt rơi. Em khiến con tim như trôi bay trong chiều thu đầy nắng, em khiến con tim như tan vỡ trong chiều thu mát màng. Vì còn nhiều lắm những ước màng, nhiều lắm những nỗi vội vàng, nhiều lắm những cơn mưa em mưa ta bây giờ vẫn vang rộng mơ ngược mãi dừng sang. Đêm mai em còn thơ đôi hồn bay anh còn người ta xưa ta chúng còn giữ nhau, chẳng để giữ lấy em khi cơn mưa về đến. Và chẳng cần nhau khi anh với em cùng một đêm trôi, em ơi ta còn gì nữa đâu một cơn mưa ngày hôm qua, ta còn lại gì nữa đâu khi